Your training earned you that cape. Now it's time to learn what it really means to be a Helldiver.
Bring something with heavy armor penetration that has decent range and take out all the turrets.
I have a flag.
My name is Commissar Kai, and while our induction to the Helldiver Corps is undoubtedly perfect, there's a lot the tutorial didn't teach you about how to survive and thrive as one of Super Earth's elite. Whether you're a hardened veteran or a fresh cadet, it's always a good idea to go back to the fundamentals. Welcome to the advanced tutorial. Before you make your first drop, you'll want to adjust a few of your settings for a properly democratic experience. Some of these will reduce visual noise, while others are simple quality of life changes. So let's get through them real quick so we can get on with the fun stuff. Turn off motion blur and depth of field. While these can make the experience a little bit more cinematic, they're more likely to rob you of your peripheral vision. It can also affect performance on PC. Plus, if you're like me, it'll make you car sick. So keep your lunch, watch your 3 and 9 o'clocks, and turn this off. Set your camera shake to weak. This will prevent your aim from consistently getting thrown off by nearby ordnance while maintaining the spirit of liberating our enemies from the burden of living. You can turn this completely off, but this feels like dissident behavior to me. I want to feel the democracy hit me in the face. Turn off auto climb. This feature might seem like it's helping you out when you're panic sprinting away from a horde of bugs, but oftentimes it'll trip you up by having you parkour all over a fence when you're trying to shoot and scoot around a horde of gribblies. Plus, nothing will make you feel more like a noob than getting stabbed in the back while climbing the resupply. Most weapons have multiple settings that you can adjust while you're liberating, and you can access these options by holding down your reload button. But you can make this much easier to do while engaging the enemy by changing open weapon wheel in your keybinds from long press to just press. This makes swapping ammo types, adjusting your scope, or changing your rate of fire on the fly more accessible since you won't have to wait for the weapon wheel to pop up before configuring your gun. In the HUD menu, swap reticle visibility from dynamic to visible. This will ensure that you always know where your gun barrel is pointing, making those snapshots more accurate and giving you more control over your hip fire for those close quarters engagements. Swap remember weapon functions from no to yes. This will make the game remember how you like your guns set up and will keep them consistent from drop to drop. That way you're not flashbanging yourself every time you drop in by having your flashlight always on, and you don't need to fiddle with your settings every time you drop into a new mission. Change your compass angle and width to wide. The default compass is hilariously small.
So small.
Changing these makes your compass more effective by showing you more directions, improving your callouts, and letting you see more points of interest. Finally, you can adjust the size of your HUD depending on if you have bad eyesight or you just want less visual clutter. You can also set a hotkey to disable your HUD entirely for a peak cinematic performance. With those settings out of the way, you're ready to pick a mission. Helldivers comes with 10 difficulty levels ranging from Weenie Hut Juniors all the way to the Salty Spittoon.
Welcome to the Salty Spittoon. How tough are you?
I killed a factory strider.
Yeah, so?
With nothing but throwing knives.
Right this way. Sorry to keep you waiting.
But don't feel pressured to dive into the deep end. Pick your difficulty based on the level of challenge you want to experience. If you're brand new to the game, I'd recommend testing your mettle on a level 5 or 6. This will give you a challenge without feeling like you're being buried under a mountain of tyranny. Once you've unlocked some stratagems and support weapons, you can start dipping your toes into higher ranks until you found your perfect fit. Or you can embrace the spirit of managed democracy and recklessly throw yourself at level 10s to be baptized in the chaos of battle. I'm always down to throw a newbie into a super Helldive mission. It's both entertaining and they make good meat shields. Alright, you've checked your mouth, found your seat, and are set for a combat drop. So let's get into the fun stuff. Turning the enemies of humanity into raw materials. But before we get too deep into actual combat, there's a couple of things you should be aware of when it comes to putting holes in bad ideologies. The first is about proper firearm management. Unlike other games where you reload weapons, popping in a new magazine does not automatically make your remaining ammo magically appear in your plate carrier. When you go to reload, whatever ammo you had left in the magazine will be tossed into the dirt for tyrants to scrounge up later. So to avoid feeding the communist war machine, make sure that you've actually spent your mag before popping in a fresh one. Additionally, every weapon has an armor penetration value, and every enemy of humanity has an armor characteristic. If the armor penetration of your weapon is higher than the armor value of whatever you're shooting, jingle jingle, I know this is boring, but you need to know it, you'll do 100% of your weapon's damage and will get a red hit marker. If the armor pin of your weapon is the same as the armor value of your target, you'll do 65% of the damage and get a gray hit marker. If the armor of your target exceeds your weapon's penetration ability, you'll you'll see a deflection icon, meaning you're being about as useful as that cadet I sent to get blinker fluid for my Puma. So watch those hit markers till you learn all of our enemies' weak points. If you want to learn more about how your starter gear works, check out my Xbox loadout where I go over how to beat the hardest difficulty using just the gear you get at level 1. To avoid sending your friends to the Wall of Martyrs early, you'll want to make sure to check behind your target before firing your weapon. If you miss, are using an armor-penetrating round, or firing off some explosive ordnance, your teammate bravely stabbing that bug in the face can easily catch a stray round. Check your targets to avoid disgruntled teammates. This also applies when pouring lead into the tyrannical masses. Sometimes Helldivers will need to cross your field of fire to escape danger or to get to a better position. Even in the heat of battle, it's important to maintain trigger discipline.
Oh, sorry,
You guys
D4.
off my flamethrower.
D4, I really want to praise my trigger discipline for not killing you, but I did shoot you, so I'm not sure if I can.
It was excellent trigger discipline, sir.
Thank you.
I am not
Sultan.
dead.
If you need to get past a Helldiver exalting the virtues of managed democracy at 900 rounds per minute, call out crossing before trying to sneak past. So get used to checking your targets and what's behind them. The same applies for stratagems and other big booms. If you have a 380mm barrage primed to introduce the enemies of humanity to the boot of managed democracy, sometimes you'll get staggered and drop that stratagem ball. When this happens, alert your team and start running. The SES Emperor of Democracy isn't about to doubt her vaunted Helldivers and will trust that you intended to call that 380 on your head. Same goes for your teammate stratagems. If one of your squad mates drops a cluster strike or some other large area of effect ordnance near you, it is your responsibility to get out of there or hit the dirt. Incoming artillery has the right of way. But if you can't outrun that 500 kg that got dumped right next to you like you're Tony Stark, hit the dirt. Explosions do less damage to you when you are prone, so you can avoid an untimely case of sudden total body disruption. This also works for when your buddies start firing in your direction. If you're stuck between the enemy and fellow Helldivers, acquaint yourself with the ground to avoid excessive blue-on-blue incidents. On missions, there are 3 situations where the enemy will be present: static enemies, patrols, and reinforcements. Static enemies spawn on the map as soon as you drop in and occupy primary and secondary objectives and points of interest. Patrols are enemies that wander the map looking for Helldivers to add to their trophy collection. And reinforcements are when a bot, bug, or squid decides that they can't handle the gonadal gumption of Helldivers that have engaged them in combat and call for help. We call these bug breaches, bot drops, and squid apports. Static enemies are easy to handle, but if you don't take them out quickly enough, they'll holler for their buddies and you'll get stuck in dealing with their reinforcements. Take these out quickly to stay focused on your mission. Patrols should only be engaged if absolutely necessary. If their path will intersect with yours, or they're occupying territory that you need to complete your objectives, take them out. Otherwise, remember what Hell Captain McMillan said and reinforcements can be handled one of 2 ways. If you need to hold an area, hunker down and fight your way through it using your stratagems, grenades, and primary weapons. If they get called in somewhere unimportant, toss out some distractions like sentries or slow them down with orbitals and disengage. Fighting reinforcements attracts patrols, and if you're not prepared, you can get quickly overrun. When it comes to general combat against the enemies of humanity, I want y'all to remember the 3 R's of Helldiver combat. Run for liberty, reinforce and resupply deliberately, and look at the map, because Helldivers can't read. Being a good Helldiver requires excellent cardio. You will be put in plenty of situations where blasting your way to freedom is no longer an option. Stubbornly refusing to leave the fight can result in what we call a death spiral. This is when you die, lose your gear, and then die again trying to get your weapons back. All the while, more enemy patrols and reinforcements converge on your position until you are out of backup and eventually fail the mission. Don't waste your final glorious stand fighting over a rock and a couple of bushes.
Oh, but Commissar, I need to shoot every enemy or my little pea brain won't do too good.
There you are, Toxodiver. Come here.
But Gundam boy!
Thanks, Gundam Boy. If you need to hold something far more valuable than Helldivers, like that sweet E710, then by all means, lay into the tyrants until whatever undemocratic entity that created them apologizes for such shoddy work. But most of your mission timer should be spent on running. Run into bug nests and toss a grenade in their door. Run to a side objective and turn on that LiDAR for your team. Run away from the bot drop that got called in the middle of nowhere. Whatever you need to do it with speed and efficiency. Once all the mission objectives are complete, then you can indulge in our time-honored tradition of Xenocide. Our second R of Helldiving is to reinforce and resupply deliberately. You will die, a lot in your career as a Helldiver, meaning you will often find yourself waiting to be reinforced. But it's important to be patient. Do not spam ping your team to reinforce you. This is distracting, and sometimes they will be unable to reinforce you in the current situation. Both ion storms and stratagem jammers can block reinforcements from coming in. When you're the one doing the reinforcing, utilize your patience to find the right time and place to call your buddies back into the fight. Do not panic throw your friends into the middle of battle. Not only is this a waste of resources, but it can be real frustrating to get called back in only to immediately get run over by a tide of fascism. Instead, throw your reinforcement ball to the rear or side of any big engagement. This will give the newly unfrozen Helldiver time to orient themselves and actually start helping out. There is an exception to this rule though. If there's a big target like a Charger or a Hulk running at your team, ping it for the reinforcement to land on. This way, they either squash or severely damage a big target while also being close enough to you that you can support them while they get situated. The resupply is one of your most powerful stratagems. It'll refill your ammo, grenades, and stems so that you can stay combat effective. It has a very short cooldown at just 3 minutes, but it is shared between the whole squad. Meaning if you're off on your own and call it in, the rest of your team is going to have to wait 3 minutes to resupply. Generally speaking, if your team is all grouped up, near an objective, or clearing a base, just call it in. Don't wait till you're all running on fumes to grab up more ammo and stems. Just be sure to abide by the Helldiver etiquette code and do not take more than one resupply without asking or at least giving your teammates a chance to grab one for themselves. This, along with the scout handshake, is one of the most surefire ways to end up as another friendly fire statistic. So remember the lessons you learned in Super Kindergarten. Sharing is caring. Our final R is to look at the map. The map is one of the most vital tools in the fight for managed democracy. It'll show enemy locations and types that are near you. Small dots are chaff enemies, while big dots are bigger targets. This helps you see incoming patrols, scout out objectives, and keep track of the tide of battle. In addition to being your own personal radar, the map gives you a topographical view of the entire operational area. This enables you to find good places to fight, places to avoid, and points of interest where you can collect samples, medals, and other goodies. To spot these POIs, look for enemies just hanging out on your map. This means those filthy aliens are guarding something shiny that you'll want to stuff in your pants. If you see something building shaped off in the distance and ping it, it will add that location to your map if it's a side objective like a LiDAR station, artillery emplacement, or anti-aircraft site. But generally speaking, you'll want to use your map to keep track of the battle happening around you and to plan your next moves. If you see yourself getting sandwiched or surrounded, locate a weak point in the enemy forces and push through it so you can get all of the tyrants coming at you from the same direction. This will help you and your team to focus fire into the horde, making all of you much more effective implements of democracy. Or if the field is clear, use the map to plan out your route or how you'll get to the next set of objectives. Utilizing the map effectively is a vital skill to being a successful Helldiver, and once you master it, you'll be able to plan ambushes, avoid patrols, lose a tail, and complete missions with plenty of time to spare. I could talk about combat and how to get better at it for days, but I'm sure y'all want to get to the liberating, so let's finish up with currencies, how they work, and how to use them. Becoming a Helldiver is a great career choice because you can loot and pillage the enemies of humanity for all kinds of goodies. You have samples, which are used to upgrade your ship and fuel our democratic space station, medals that are used to unlock weapons, armors, emotes, and other fancy gear, requisition to purchase new stratagems and weapon components, and super credits for gaining access to premium war bonds, which is where you'll find some of the best items in the game. Samples come in 3 flavors: sour apple, citrus blast, and super uranium. Common samples, the green ones, are, well, common. They have a few different appearances depending on which front you're fighting on, but you will always need these until your ship is in top shape. Rare samples are not that rare, but it can be a bit of a roadblock for your progression. Both rare and common samples can be found at points of interest, objectives, and enemy bases. Super samples only appear on difficulty 6 and higher and are by far the most rare form of sample. You can only find these at what Helldivers affectionately call the stone, but since I can only say so many variations of Freedom's beehole plug, I call it the pickle. Once you get used to looking for it, you'll be able to spot my favorite gas station snack from a good bit of ways. It'll also show up as a point of interest on your minimap. All samples will emit a sound cue when you're near them. It sounds like this. So when you hear Tinkerbell going off in your ear, it means loot is nearby. Samples are also shared by the whole squad, so don't worry if you hop in the Pelican without them. As long as one of your teammates extracts with the samples, everyone gets all of them. Once Democracy has filled your sample container, you can use them to upgrade parts of your ship. There are a lot of these upgrades, and some are drastically better than others. If you're just starting out, I would recommend upgrading your hangar and bridge first. The hangar makes your Eagle stratagems drastically better, giving them upgrades like cooldown reduction, more ordnance, and increasing the amount of times you can call them in before Eagle 1 needs to rearm, while the bridge contains a lot of quality of life upgrades, like making your hellpod more maneuverable, making your map better, and improving your orbital barrages. Requisition is easy. You get it for complete missions, and you can find this garbage at points of interest. It's just used to unlock new stratagems and to purchase weapon parts. But since you get a ton of it after each mission, you don't really need to think about it. Medals you get for completing missions, and you get more of them for completing all the missions within an operation. You can also find them on the battlefield. Use these to unlock new gear from the Helldivers Mobilized Base Warbond. Once you've unlocked all of this essential kit, you can start spending them on premium Warbonds once you have enough super credits to unlock them. Speaking of super credits, these are Helldivers premium currency. You can buy them using real money, but because this is one of the best games ever made, you can also farm it in missions. You'll find piles of super credits at points of interest that have one of these shipping containers. They can also be found in buddy bunkers, which need either one friend or one warp pack to open. If you don't feel like spending extra real world cash on your career as a Helldiver, you can grab a jump pack, head to a level 2 or 3 mission, hit all the points of interest, and leave back to your super destroyer. Once you pick these up, they are yours. You do not need to extract to keep them, but you'll use these super credits to unlock premium Warbonds, which contain dozens of extra weapons, armor sets, emotes, and the like. If you're new to the game, buy Democratic Detonation first, because it'll make your life a lot easier. And then you can pick whatever looks good to you, or wait for my Warbond ranking video coming out later this week. Just don't purchase things from the superstore until you've grabbed a few Warbonds. These items are mostly for drip, and you will get way more value out of a Warbond. Warbonds even give you extra super credits, so you really are robbing yourself using the superstore early on. Finally, if you're new to the game and need friends to play with, consider enlisting in my Division of Commandos by clicking the link to the Discord in the description of this video. The 326th Commando Division has 18,000 active Helldivers ready to show you the ropes and make new friends. We even have a dedicated corps of mentors to show you greenhorns the ways of managed democracy. I asked our mentors what they would tell themselves if they could go back in time to when they first put on their capes. And here's what they said. Kanakazi says, remember, incoming Hellpods are just a giant bullet. Try sticking them to your enemies. This is great advice since you can take down a Charger or a Hulk by throwing your support weapon at them for express delivery. You get a weapon, and they get to be a freedom burger. Little Dude 146347, that's a lot of numbers, says, suppressive fire against the bots makes their aim worse. Always be moving against the bugs, and use choke points against the squids. Each of these is a good bit of advice for staying alive against the various factions. Well done. Our final bit of wisdom comes from Skywalker 5T4. They say, enemies in your face, melee them to make space. For democracy. This Helldiver has the spirit. I like it. Use your melee whenever a tyrant invades your personal space. It will briefly stagger them and allow you to riddle them with holes. So if you need a helping hand during your formative years as a Helldiver, hit up one of my mentors in the Discord. And if you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments. But until next time, this is Commissar Kai, signing out.
D3, come to me. I want to show you why I don't believe in mines. Alright, so you see? I can just step on it, and I'm fine. I don't believe in them.